Babes, welcome back. We love you. We missed you. You are the moment. Welcome back to the Snark side.
Get cozy, grab your drinks, and honestly, just dim the lights to that very soft, very forgiving Tuesday evening glow because we are unpacking so much mess tonight.
We really are. Like, Tuesday evenings are officially reserved for analyzing other people's generational trauma so we don't have to look at our own, right?
It is an absolutely necessary coping mechanism at this point. I mean, the real world is too much.
Exactly. And for anyone watching the video feed right now, yes, Snark Squad, we are sipping on Gatorade tonight. Stay hydrated, queens.
Essential hydration for the sheer amount of delusion we are about to witness.
But wait, I have to stop everything right now before we even get into the reality TV of it all. Because something is profoundly off. Or, honestly, profoundly on.
Oh boy, what is happening?
Why does this Gatorade taste so incredibly life-changingly good right now? Like, I'm sipping this Frost Glacier Freeze, and I swear the flavor profile is entirely different than it was like 5 years ago.
Okay, wait.
Did they quietly change the formula? Tell me I'm not crazy, because I saw a TikTok of a basketball player in a post-game interview this week.
I saw that exact video.
Yes, he took a sip, completely stopped mid-sentence, and looked at the bottle like it held the secrets of the universe.
I am so glad you brought this up because I was literally analyzing my bottle of lemon lime before we hit record. Like, the internet is fully divided into two camps right now.
Right. What are the theories? Because my brain needs a conspiracy.
Well, half the internet is convinced the manufacturer quietly rolled out some, like, high-definition proprietary electrolyte matrix to compete with all the new hydration powders.
Oh, I fully believe that. That makes so much sense.
But the other half thinks we are all just collectively chronically dehydrated adults, and any introduction of basic cellular hydration feels like magic.
I mean, okay, I want to believe there's a secret lab making the blue flavor bluer. I really do.
Yeah, obviously.
But let me push back on my own delusion for a second. Have we considered that maybe we just don't drink water anymore?
I mean, I certainly don't.
Right. Like, between the iced coffees and the stress, maybe my body is just reacting to sodium and potassium like a dying plant.
Physiologically, that is exactly what is happening. When you are operating at a chronic hydration deficit, your body's osmolarity is completely out of whack.
Oh, here we go with the science.
I have to. The second you introduce an isotonic solution, your brain's reward centers flood with dopamine. It tastes better because your survival mechanisms are rewarding you for not desiccating yourself.
Wow. Okay, just casually diagnose my entire existence.
You're welcome. It's not a new formula. You are just experiencing the biological joy of basic maintenance.
Well, you know what? I will take the biological joy. Because between dealing with our own real-life narcissist moms...
Oh, don't even get me started on the family group chats this week.
Literally in the trenches.
Yeah.
Yes, Snark Squad, we've both been fighting for our lives in the family group chats this week.
Barely surviving.
And just being normal, working-class people who are trying to survive in an economy where groceries cost $1 million, I am exhausted. Like, babes, I am so tired.
Exhausted is an understatement.
I was literally staring at my ceiling last night, pitching myself the idea of a total social media detox.
A detox, okay. Fascinating.
Not from you guys, obviously. We would never abandon the Snark Squad.
Yeah.
But just like a detox from consuming absolute unregulated chaos.
Let's be incredibly analytical about this for a second because I know your habits.
Be nice.
I'm just saying, are you actually going to last 12 hours before you start searching for reality TV clips?
Probably not.
Because a detox implies you want to cleanse your system of the chaos, but I would argue you don't actually want peace.
What do I want then?
You want the distraction of curated chaos. When you are stressed about your own life, scrolling through someone else's dysfunction isn't toxic to you, it's a pressure release valve.
I hate when you do that. I hate when you use logic against me. Because you're right.
I usually am.
I do want the distraction. If I don't have other people's messy decisions to focus on, I might have to think about my own taxes. Which means we absolutely cannot detox tonight.
No, we have work to do. We have to pivot to the show.
We have to talk about Welcome to Plathville. Because, Snark Squad, how is it that over the course of 8 seasons, this family went from wholesome, blonde, barefoot prairie core vibes,
Literally churning butter on a farm.
yes, to a full-blown, unhinged chaos factory? Like, babes, this is not the same show we started watching.
It is a completely different psychological case study at this point. We really need to analyze the TLC's secret formula here.
Right, because they do this every time. How does this network manage to capture this exact trajectory over and over?
Is it the editing? Is it just the inevitable passage of time?
Or is it the explosive reality of taking highly sheltered, deeply isolated people, putting a camera in their faces, handing them a paycheck, and just letting them self-destruct?
I mean, everyone always blames a paycheck.
See, I don't think it's just the money. I honestly think it's the exposure to the outside world.
The camera as a mirror.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you put a producer in the room who asks you, like, hey, how did that make you feel? And it's the first time in your life anyone has ever asked you about your feelings.
It breaks the programming.
Yes, the Hawthorne effect, right?
Like you using sociological terms. Yes, the alteration of behavior due to their awareness of being observed.
But in this case, the observation forces them to realize their normal is actually extremely abnormal. Once that bubble bursts, the feral tendencies unlock.
Feral is the only word for it, which brings us to Season 8, Episode 4, That Dog Won't Hunt.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you, I have so many notes, I have so many emotions, I am ready to burn the whole farm down.
Proceed with caution.
But first, a disclaimer for the Snark Squad. Explicit permanent passes are granted to Lydia, Zach, and Mariah, always and forever.
We protect them at all costs. They're doing their best in a deeply weird situation.
Exactly. The rest of this family, straight into the analytical garbage bin. And we have to start with the matriarch of delusion herself, Kim Plath.
Let's open the psychological file on Kim, because her scenes this week were a masterclass in cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance doesn't even cover it.
Yeah.
So Kim is on this whole health and fitness journey right now.
Right.
She's talking about her weight. She's talking about her clothes don't fit. And honestly, valid. Aging is hard. Hormones are a nightmare. Bodies change.
I have empathy for that.
I do too. But then she sits in her confessional, looks directly into the lens, and attempts to rewrite 20 years of history.
The audacity.
She says, and I quote, "Back on the farm, we didn't eat sugar, but we went through a lot of honey."
And then the editors, bless them, cut to a shot of her filling a cup with honey.
Like a literal drinking cup, just pouring it in.
The Reddit community was having a field day with the biochemistry of this moment, and we need to break it down for anyone who missed basic nutritional science.
Please do.
Honey is roughly 80% sugar. It is primarily fructose and glucose. The glycemic impact on your body is virtually identical to refined white sugar.
Say it louder.
Carbohydrates minus fiber equals sugar. She was feeding her children massive amounts of liquid sugar while maintaining this bizarre moral high ground about being a sugar-free household.
Exactly. And do you remember season 1? When the kids wanted to learn basic facts about the world?
Oh, the head knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kim shut it down and called it head knowledge, like education was an infectious disease. Well, clearly, knowing how a pancreas works is also just head knowledge she refuses to acquire.
She acts like because the sugar came out of a bee, it's basically a vegetable.
It's insane. And we haven't even touched on the alcohol. Because we know Kim is fully giving screwdriver girly energy right now.
Oh, heavily.
You cannot sit there in a confessional and tell me you lived a sugar-free life when we all know the astronomical amount of sugar in mixed drinks. The hypocrisy is so thick you could spread it on a piece of Ezekiel bread.
It's not just ignorance, though. It's a control tactic.
How so?
In high-control family systems, the authoritarian parent needs to control the definitions of reality. If she decrees that honey isn't sugar, then within the compound, it isn't sugar. Wow. Her reality is absolute. But the cameras are exposing the flaw in her reality. She projected all her own issues onto her kids, deprived them of a normal childhood under the guise of health.
And now she's standing there holding a cup of raw glucose, wondering why her family structure is collapsing.
She didn't want a sugar-free home. She wanted a joy-free home for her children.
Joy-free. That is so dark and so accurate. And speaking of bizarre, joyless activities disguised as family bonding, we must discuss the dead trees.
Oh my God, the trees.
I thought I was hallucinating. I genuinely thought someone slipped something into my Gatorade. Suddenly, we cut to Kim and sweet, traumatized Isaac out in the middle of the woods.
Just manually pushing over dead trees.
They are walking up to rotting pine trees and shoving them with their bare hands until they crash to the forest floor.
She claims it's a safety measure so a tree doesn't fall on her while she's riding a four-wheeler.
What kind of heavily scripted, desperate TLC filler scene was this?
Let's analyze the absolute absurdity of this from a practical standpoint. If a tree is weak enough for a middle-aged woman and her teenage son to push over with a gentle shove.
It was going to fall anyway.
Exactly. It was going to fall in the next strong breeze. You don't manually deforest a property as a mother-son bonding activity.
And is completely fabricated.
It ranks right up there with Ethan singing Amazing Grace with the little girls in the driveway last season. It's performative ruralism.
Performative ruralism. That is brilliant. It's like they have a quota of country activities they have to hit per episode.
And someone in production was like, just go push some wood around.
But it perfectly segues into the other incredibly planted, wildly absurd storyline, the juicer.
Long live the juice. Let's all take a hydration sip for the juicer.
Because Kim decides she needs to get back into juicing, specifically celery and ginger.
Right.
She is frantically looking for her massive, industrial white juicer, which she calls the mother of all juicers. But wouldn't you know it, Snark Squad? Just the day before, her ex-husband Barry just happened to swing by her new boyfriend Ken's house.
Out of nowhere.
Dig through a dusty back closet and borrow that exact juicer.
The convenience of the timeline is insulting to our intelligence. She was just about to use it tomorrow, yet it was buried in a storage box in her new boyfriend's closet. No.
Not buying it for a second.
But what's infinitely more fascinating than the fake timeline is the psychology of Barry's actions here.
Yes. Because why is Barry, a grown man with an independent income, going to his ex-wife's new boyfriend's house to steal a used kitchen appliance?
Because he can't let go.
If you want celery juice, he can go to Target. He can buy a $50 Ninja blender.
He is weaponizing a produce extractor just to force an interaction.
Exactly. It's an assertion of access.
In family systems theory, when a highly enmeshed marriage dissolves, the individuals often struggle with the sudden establishment of boundaries.
Wait, say more about that.
Well, Barry taking the juicer isn't about hydration. It's about proving to Kim, and more importantly to Ken, that he still has free reign over her physical possessions and her physical space.
Wow.
It's a very quiet, very passive-aggressive territorial marking.
Territorial marking. He is basically a golden retriever peeing on Ken's storage closet.
Literally.
Which brings us perfectly to the next massive piece of this puzzle. Plath Daddy himself. I cannot believe we are calling him that, but the internet has spoken. Let's talk about the interaction between Barry and Ken.
The secondhand embarrassment generated by this single scene could power the entire eastern seaboard.
Snark Squad, picture this. Barry pulls up to Ken's property in his massive, floating, grandfather-style sedan.
Just gliding in.
He's there to drop off oats for the farm animals. But he pops the trunk, and he pulls out exactly one bag of oats.
I need everyone to understand the agricultural math here. Horses and cows consume massive quantities of feed. One bag of oats will satiate a horse for approximately 45 minutes. You do not drive across town to deliver one bag of oats unless the oats are a prop.
It was a total prop. He hoists it onto his shoulder, insists on carrying it himself, and drops it on the cement floor of the garage.
The passive-aggressive alpha energy was radiating off my television screen.
And Ken, who, let's be honest, has the emotional read of a brick wall, decides this heavily fraught, incredibly awkward moment is the perfect time to casually ask Barry if he's dating anyone.
It was a fascinating collision of two completely different communication styles.
Right.
You have Barry, who speaks entirely in subtext and passive aggression, dealing with Ken, who seems entirely devoid of subtext.
Ken just asks a deeply invasive question with the casual tone of asking about the weather.
But Barry's confessional directly after this was peak reality TV shade.
It really was. Barry sits in the producer chair, admits the question was super weird, and then casually jokes to the camera that he should have asked Ken. Like, so how's it going with Kim? Let me give you a few pointers. Watch out for X, Y, and Z.
I gasped.
Same. Barry is showing a level of self-awareness and direct shade that Kim's brain couldn't even process.
We have to give him credit where it's due. Barry is demonstrating an evolving emotional intelligence.
Is it perfect?
No. Oh, but look at his video call with the professional matchmaker, Renee. Renee asks him to rate his readiness for a committed relationship on a scale of 1 to 10.
And Kim essentially shacked up with Ken before the divorce papers were printed.
Exactly. But Barry actually pauses, assesses his emotional bandwidth, and says he's a 5. He says he is midway there.
I took actual notes on this scene.
Yeah.
Because when Renee asks him why his marriage to Kim failed, I fully expected him to play the victim.
You too.
But he didn't. He actually owned his part of the dysfunction. He looked at the camera and said Kim felt she had no voice and that she wasn't loved the way she needed to be loved.
He absorbed the feedback from his failed marriage and explicitly stated he wants to use it to better himself.
That is the definition of psychological growth. To recognize your role in the deterioration of a multi-decade relationship requires a temporary suspension of ego.
No, I'm not saying Barry is fully healed, far from it. But recognizing the baseline is the first step.
However, the moment he starts listing his requirements for a new woman,
Oh, no.
that is where the therapeutic growth stops and the absolute absurdity begins.
The requirements are wild. He is laying out his type for Renee. He says he wants a nurturer. Standard answer.
But then he explicitly, and I mean leaning into the camera, maintaining unblinking eye contact, says he did not want an alpha female.
He says he's been there, done that.
And is exceptionally put off by overly controlling types of manipulation.
The library is open, and Barry is reading Kim to absolute filth on national television.
It's not even subtext anymore, it's just text.
He is using this matchmaking service to broadcast to his ex-wife exactly how toxic he found her personality.
And then Renee asks him about his physical type. And Barry, a man who raised 9 children completely off the grid,
Who banned television, pop culture, and secular media.
looks this matchmaker in the eye and says he wants olive-toned skin and the Sandra Bullock look.
And he doesn't just leave it at that. He specifically references Sandra Bullock in the 1994 action movie Speed with Keanu Reeves.
The hypocrisy is staggering. You have a patriarch who strictly enforced a media blackout in his home, who ensured his children didn't know who Spider-Man was.
Casually referencing a massive 90s blockbuster as his ultimate romantic ideal.
It proves that the rules in the Plath household only applied to the children, never the parents.
But frankly, if Barry wants his very own Annie Porter to drive his emotional bus above 50 miles per hour, I say let him try.
Good luck to Sandra Bullock, honestly. But the absolute best, most chaotic part of this dating storyline is his vetting process.
Oh, the baseball team.
Yes, he calls it his baseball team. He has 9 kids, so he sits his daughters down to tell them he's using an elite matchmaking service.
Which, by the way, the girls immediately brutally call out as just being a dating app. They see right through him.
And he asks them what they want in a stepmother, which is actually a very sweet, collaborative approach, completely at odds with his former authoritarian parenting style.
But the girls' requirements are incredibly revealing.
I was dying. They start listing demands. She must tolerate 80s music. She must like country music. She has to enjoy water activities.
She has to be smart enough to help them with their math homework.
Which is a direct, sad little dig at the fact that their parents completely failed their homeschooling curriculum.
And the absolute kicker, absolutely no coffee breath.
The hyperspecificity of no coffee breath suggests some deeply ingrained sensory traumas from their childhood.
But essentially, they aren't looking for a stepmother. They are looking for a highly qualified camp counselor who can tutor algebra and carries a strong supply of Altoids.
It's amusing, but it also highlights how desperate these kids are for a stable, competent adult presence in their lives.
Which brings us to the collateral damage of this episode. We have to talk about the sons.
We need to talk about sweet, sweet Isaac.
Isaac, the youngest son, who is currently bearing the full weight of his family's dysfunction while trying to navigate his own transition into adulthood.
I felt so deeply bad for him this week. Snark Squad, he is clearly spiraling. He officially broke up with Kalin, and he is devastated.
Now, Kalin is about 2, maybe 2.5 years older than him.
And Isaac was completely in his own head. He panicked. He convinced himself that she was going to want to get married before he was ready, even though she wasn't actually pressuring him to propose.
It was a textbook case of self-inflicted relationship sabotage. In psychology, we call this an anxious avoidant trap.
Right.
He got scared of the intimacy and the perceived future expectations, so he preemptively blew up the relationship to protect himself from the anxiety.
He thought the grass might be greener, or at least less complicated somewhere else.
He admitted he had to see for himself, and now the reality of his isolation is crushing him.
But the most telling part of this whole tragic situation was Kalin's reaction. She was over at Barry's house, actively crying over the breakup. Her heart is broken.
And what does she say to Isaac's sisters through her tears?
She says, "Make sure Isaac is okay."
That level of empathy and emotional maturity is entirely foreign to the Plath family dynamic.
She is a queen. She is genuinely too pure for this entire network. And honestly, I know she is hurting right now, but her dodging the Plath family is a massive, massive win for her long-term mental health.
Totally.
Babe, you escaped. You are free. Go live a beautiful, unenmeshed life and do not look back at this chaotic farm.
Isaac even verbalized his guilt. He said she didn't deserve it, and he wishes she had just yelled at him instead of being kind. He is carrying an immense psychological burden.
But what makes this entire storyline so incredibly dark and frankly infuriating is how Kim reacts to it in her confessional.
Brace yourself, Snark Squad, because the hypocrisy I'm about to relay to you gave me physical whiplash.
After 8 seasons of enforcing the most draconian extreme purity culture imaginable on her older children,
Kim looks directly into the TLC camera and completely changes her entire worldview.
she literally says, and I'm quoting this directly because I had to rewind it 3 times, "I think it's better to have sex before marriage and really get to know who you're marrying than to just rush in and get married so that you can have sex."
We need to unpack the sheer, terrifying damage of that 180-degree ideological flip.
On a strictly logical, secular level.
Yes.
Welcome to the 21st century, Kim.
It is generally advisable to understand your sexual compatibility with a partner before signing a legally binding lifetime contract. But you cannot view this statement in a vacuum. You have to look at the collateral damage of her timing.
Exactly. Because she didn't have this epiphany 20 years ago. She forced her older kids, Ethan, Hosanna, Micah, Mariah, to adhere to these insane, traumatizing purity rules.
They weren't even allowed to hold hands.
Purity culture isn't just a rule about waiting. It is a comprehensive framework that ties a person's fundamental human worth to their sexual inexperience.
It operates heavily on the sunk cost fallacy. You sacrifice your entire adolescence, your normal social development, all in exchange for the promise of a perfect, blessed marriage.
Kim forced this framework on her older children. And what happened? They rushed into marriages at 19 years old, purely because it was the only permitted avenue for physical intimacy.
And those marriages crashed and burned. Look at Ethan and Olivia. They had no idea who they were, let alone who they were marrying. They were just 2 kids who wanted to kiss.
And now, Kim watches the catastrophic fallout of the marriages she engineered, and instead of taking deep, tearful accountability for ruining their formative years, she casually pivots.
She tells her younger children, "Oops, my bad, you should probably test drive the car before you buy it."
Test drive. Can you imagine being one of the older kids sitting on your couch, watching your mother casually endorse premarital sex on national television after she basically treated you like a criminal for wanting to hug your high school crush?
It invalidates their entire traumatic experience. It is so deeply, profoundly damaging.
She stands back and wonders why everyone in her orbit is a mess, and she refuses to recognize that she is the architect of the mess.
It is narcissism in its purest form. The rules only exist to serve Kim's current reality. When it served her to be a strict fundamentalist, she enforced purity. Now that she is divorced and dating a man with a storage closet juicer, purity is suddenly outdated.
The lack of empathy for her older children's lived experience is chilling.
Speaking of her older children who have absolutely zero idea how to function in the real world, we have to talk about Ethan.
We have to talk about the Wisconsin stalking mission, because I need a moment.
Yeah.
I am fully spiraling over Ethan's behavior.
Take a sip of your Gatorade.
Right.
Regulate your nervous system, because Ethan's behavior in this episode was not just a red flag, it was a blaring air raid siren.
Okay, thank you. So Ethan is currently living down in Georgia. He is working at Russell's Military Vehicles, restoring old machines.
And honestly, Russell seems like an absolute angel. He is a real mentor to Ethan.
He offers Ethan a permanent, full-time spot. He offers to order him a black company shirt with his name embroidered right over his heart.
He even implies that Ethan could eventually take over the business. It is the dream scenario for a guy who is basically a 1950s mechanic trapped in a 2026 reality show.
It is a golden ticket to stability, mentorship, and a fulfilling career. And what does Ethan do?
He turns it down. He quits his job, packs exactly 1 duffel bag of clothes and 2 bags of wrenches, and bails on his entire existence.
And why? Because he suddenly decides he wants his ex-girlfriend, Tegan, back.
Tegan, who lives across the country in Wisconsin.
And we need to get the facts straight here because the timeline is crucial. Ethan promised Tegan while they were dating that he would move to Wisconsin to be with her.
Right, he didn't do it. He dragged his feet.
She felt rightfully that he didn't care enough to make the effort, so she dumped him. And now, after the breakup, when they haven't spoken in an extended period, he decides, oh, I guess I'll just move there now.
The logic is horrifying. It is pure avoidance coping mechanism. He avoids the difficult conversation when they are together. He avoids making the move when it would have saved the relationship.
And now, he avoids telling his family he is leaving until he is literally driving down the highway so they can't stop him.
But the most alarming avoidance of all, he doesn't tell Tegan.
He doesn't tell her. He decides that the best way to show commitment is to secretly drive a massive, vintage 1976 Chrysler New Yorker across the United States, in the dead of winter, without a job, without an apartment, and without her consent.
Even Kim Plath, who we just established has a severely compromised moral compass, had to look at her son and say, don't do anything weird like drive by her house at 2 a.m.
When Kim Plath is the voice of reason telling you you're acting like a stalker, you need to pull the car over and reevaluate your entire psychological makeup.
Seriously. But he doesn't listen. Let's break down what he actually does when he gets to Wisconsin, because I was screaming at my television.
He doesn't call her. He doesn't text her.
He admits on camera that he is sleeping in the massive backseat of his Chrysler in an abandoned, snow-covered lot next to an empty shopping mall.
It is textbook stalker behavior. The isolation, the secret surveillance, the grandiosity of the secret gesture.
You're wants to orchestrate a scenario where he just runs into her so she can be shocked and awed by his presence.
He purposely drives his highly recognizable giant classic car past her hotel. Not once, but twice.
He tells the producer, oh, she spotted me. And the producer, bless them, is like, are you purposely driving past her?
And Ethan tries to play it cool and deny it, but then he immediately smirks that weird little smirk and says, yeah, it was serious. It was.
He thinks he's the protagonist in a romantic comedy. He believes that uprooting his life, rendering himself homeless in a frozen parking lot, and orchestrating a fake accidental run-in is going to win her back.
He literally stated his twisted logic on camera. If I tell her I'm moving, she won't believe me until I'm there.
No, Ethan. If you tell her you're moving, you can have an adult conversation about boundaries and consent. You can ask if she even wants you in her state.
This is exactly what happens when you raise children completely isolated from society. They don't know what healthy communication looks like.
They don't understand that, surprise, I live in my car near your work now, is not a declaration of love. It is a reason to file a police report.
It highlights a fundamental failure in his emotional development. His parents banned conflict and emotional expression in the home. Therefore, Ethan lacks the cognitive framework for adult conflict resolution.
To him, grandiose secret gestures equate to love because actual vulnerability is too terrifying.
He told her multiple times he would move. He failed. She enacted a boundary by leaving, and his solution is to bulldoze that boundary in the creepiest way possible. Smooth Ethan indeed.
I cannot handle it. This entire family is just operating entirely on feral instincts at this point.
Which actually transitions us perfectly into a bigger conversation. I want to zoom out from the Plaths for a second. Because watching Ethan sleep in a mall parking lot got me thinking about reality TV as an entire genre.
I want to explore this phenomenon. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Because the Plaths are not an isolated anomaly. They are merely the latest data point in a very specific, highly predictable reality TV trajectory.
Yes. Think about it. Why is it that the most pure, ultra-sheltered, hyper-religious families, the ones who proudly brag about not owning a television, always, and I mean always, end up having the darkest, messiest, most catastrophic downfalls once they get on television?
We've seen this happen with so many TLC families over the years.
They start out season 1 in prairie dresses, talking about churning butter and supervised courting. By season 8, the parents are divorced, the mom is wearing miniskirts and dating a fitness instructor, the dad is on a dating app looking for a 90s action star, and the kids are living out of vintage cars.
How does this happen every single time? Is chaos just inevitable?
If we look at this analytically, it is a perfect storm of sociological variables. First, you have to consider the baseline starting point of these families.
They are usually operating under extreme, rigid ideologies. High control, high isolation, zero privacy.
These homes are pressure cookers of repressed emotion and unfulfilled human desires.
Exactly. They are basically holding their breath for 20 years, and you can only hold your breath for so long before you pass out or gasp for air.
Precisely. Then you introduce the TLC variable. You inject a camera crew and producers into this closed ecosystem.
This does two critical things. As we discussed, it provides a mirror, forcing them to contextualize their bizarre dynamics against the normal outside world. But more importantly, it provides massive financial independence.
The paycheck. The magical reality TV money that suddenly means the kids don't have to rely on their parents for food and shelter anymore.
Money equals choices. And when you grant infinite choices to people who have never been allowed to make a single autonomous decision in their entire lives, chaos is not just likely, it is practically guaranteed.
The network producers don't even need to orchestrate the drama. They don't need to write a script. They just need to fund the rebellion.
You hand a deeply sheltered, traumatized kid, a credit card, and a plane ticket, and natural human rebellion takes over. It's like releasing an animal that was born in captivity into the middle of Times Square.
Of course it's going to go completely feral. It has no survival skills for that environment.
It is so incredibly true. Let me use a metaphor. It's like when you see a kid who wasn't allowed to eat any sugar growing up. Cough. The Plath kids. Cough.
The second they get to college and go to the dining hall, they don't just have one cookie. They eat frosting straight out of the plastic tub until they make themselves physically sick because they have no internal regulator.
Reality TV is the frosting tub. They are gorging themselves on freedom, and they have no idea how to process it safely.
And, honestly, I sit on my couch and I eat it up. I watch them eat the frosting, I judge their stomach ache, and then I feel terrible about the fact that I enjoy watching it.
Which brings us to a very real, somewhat uncomfortable question. Are we complicit? Because consuming all this generational trauma, watching these families implode for our entertainment, is exactly why we are both sitting here, exhausted, contemplating a social media detox.
Yes, we need boundaries. I desperately need boundaries from other people's lack of boundaries.
Right.
So let's revisit this detox idea we were pitching earlier.
If we are actually going to execute a social media detox, we need rules.
And I have pitched a completely unserious, highly specific rule for myself that I genuinely think might work.
Please enlighten me. What is your foolproof psychological strategy to cure your internet addiction?
Okay, hear me out. I can only look at TikTok, Instagram, or Reddit if my dog is actively asleep on my lap.
I'm sorry, what? I need you to explain the mechanics of this.
Think about it. It forces physical mindfulness.
Yeah.
My biggest problem is that I aggressively doom scroll while I'm walking down the street or standing in line at the grocery store or brushing my teeth. It's constant.
But with this rule, I have to be seated. I have to be calm. I have to provide a nurturing, still environment for my pet.
It turns doom scrolling into a cozy, physically limited activity. The second he wakes up, stretches, and walks away, the app closes. The dog is the timer.
That is, without a doubt, the most unhinged, emotionally dependent screen time strategy I have ever heard in my professional life.
You are outsourcing your executive function to a terrier.
You are tying your dopamine receptors to the circadian rhythm of an animal that sleeps 14 hours a day. What happens if he is particularly lethargic on a Sunday? You're just going to scroll for 9 hours straight and blame the dog's sleep cycle.
Wow. Okay, you really didn't have to get so clinical and attack my dog's sleep schedule. Fine, Miss Analytical. What is your hyper-realistic, completely boring rule for a detox?
My rule relies on actual software, not canine narcolepsy. Hard app timers built into the phone's operating system. 30 minutes for Instagram, 30 minutes for TikTok per day.
Once the screen locks, it locks. You don't override it.
And more importantly, the physical phone goes into a completely different room at 8 p.m. No screens in the bedroom, ever. We read a physical book, we drink water, we regulate our central nervous systems like grown adults.
That sounds absolutely miserable. That sounds like a prison sentence in a 19th century sanitarium.
It sounds like sanity. But let's debate the core issue here, Snark Squad, because we have to ask ourselves, is the social media algorithm actually the problem making us tired?
Or do we, deep down, secretly just love the mess and the chaos too much to ever look away? Are we complaining about the drama of reality TV while simultaneously holding a magnifying glass to it because we crave the distraction?
I will answer that with complete honesty. I am the drama. I love the mess. I thrive on it.
If I didn't have Ethan Plath making objectively terrible decisions in Wisconsin to analyze, what would I even think about while I'm doing my 10-step skincare routine? My own problems. The state of the global economy? Absolutely not. I refuse. I need the distraction.
And there we have it. The delusion is comforting. We use their lack of boundaries to avoid setting our own.
It really is. Which leads me to another thought about boundaries. Because speaking of setting boundaries with our phones, we really need to talk about setting boundaries with toxic family members.
Which is something that Isaac, Ethan, and basically everyone on this network clearly has no idea how to do.
The Plath family is a masterclass in what therapists call enmeshment. There are no healthy boundaries. There are only rigid, suffocating walls that occasionally get smashed down with zero communication, leaving emotional shrapnel everywhere.
Exactly. And let's get a little real for a second, Snark Squad. Let's talk about family dysfunction on a personal level. We joke about it heavily on this show, but we both have our own complex histories with narcissist moms.
We've been very open about our own generational trauma. And watching these kids navigate Kim Plath, Sometimes it is way too relatable.
The deep confusion, the inherent guilt, the feeling like you have to constantly unscrew what your parents screwed up, like Isaac was saying, it is a heavy burden. At
Yeah.
what point do you step back from that dysfunction? When is it okay to just walk away?
That is arguably the hardest question to answer in family therapy, because the guilt is programmed into your neurobiology from birth. You are hardwired to seek the approval of your caregivers.
You see it perfectly illustrated with Isaac. He makes a healthy, autonomous choice for his own life to break up with Kalin because he isn't ready for marriage.
But instead of feeling empowered, he is immediately crushed by guilt, feeling like he has to fix the emotional state of everyone around him. And then, on the exact opposite end of the trauma response spectrum, you have Ethan.
Ethan, who just completely bypasses guilt and goes completely feral.
Precisely. How do you balance being honest with your family and setting a firm, healthy boundary versus just going feral, refusing to communicate, and running away to sleep in a 1976 Chrysler New Yorker to avoid dealing with your feelings?
Where is the line between protecting your peace and just being a coward who runs away from conflict?
Honestly, I'm going to defend the running away for a second. Sometimes running away feels exactly like protecting your peace.
If I had Kim Plath tracking my every move, aggressively judging my life choices, and forcing me to push over dead trees, I might Irish goodbye my entire life and sleep in a mall parking lot, too.
Sometimes the environment is so toxic that evasion is the only survival tactic.
Evasion is a valid survival tactic in an actively abusive situation, yes. But a true boundary requires communication. A healthy boundary sounds like, I'm stepping back from this relationship because X, Y, and Z behaviors are harmful to me.
Ethan isn't doing that. He is ghosting his entire support system and ambushing an ex-girlfriend who already set a boundary with him. That's not protecting his peace, that's projecting his chaos onto someone else.
But to your point, when you are dealing with a truly narcissistic parent who views boundaries as a personal attack, sometimes silent evasion is the only tactic that practically works because they will never respect a stated boundary anyway.
Wow. Okay, I feel like I just got 50 minutes of intense cognitive behavioral therapy, and I didn't even have to pay a copay. You just read my entire childhood to filth, but you are so right. It is a messy truth.
Sometimes you just have to fade into the bushes like Homer Simpson to survive your family group chat.
It is the messy, complicated truth of being an adult.
It is. And speaking of protecting our peace, let's protect our taste buds. I want to circle back to the very beginning of this conversation, because I have been taking sips of this Frost Glacier Freeze this entire time, and I am telling you, with full-blind taste test energy, this Gatorade is fundamentally different and better than it was 10 years ago. I swear on everything I hold dear.
You are so deeply susceptible to the power of suggestion. It is alarming. You saw one 30-second TikTok video of a basketball player, and now your brain is actively rewiring its sensory input to match an internet trend.
I need you to think critically. Are we really convinced that a massive multinational beverage corporation quietly changed a highly profitable, decades-old formula without launching a massive, multi-million-dollar marketing campaign to brag about it?
Or is it more likely that we are just aging, our modern diets are lacking, and our bodies are screaming for basic electrolytes so intensely that anything with sodium tastes like nectar from the gods?
I reject your logic. I reject your science. It is crispier. The blue flavor is inherently bluer. The frost is frostier. It is giving me life, and I will not let you take this joy from me.
But okay, if we're going to debate the structural integrity of childhood foods changing, we have to talk about the food Mandela effect. Because there are things from my childhood that I swear have changed on a molecular level, and the internet constantly tries to gaslight me into thinking they haven't.
I love a good culinary conspiracy theory. Let's hear your strongest case.
Kraft macaroni and cheese. Specifically, the shapes. The SpongeBob SquarePants shapes, to be exact. The shaped macaroni tasted significantly better than the standard noodle tubes.
The cheese powder clung to them differently. The structural integrity of the sponge shape fundamentally altered the flavor profile. And I am convinced they changed the chemical makeup of the cheese powder like 5 years ago, and nobody can tell me otherwise.
Okay, I'm actually going to validate you on the first point. The shape thing is scientifically accurate. It all comes down to the surface area to volume ratio. The complex, extruded shapes of the characters have more nooks, crannies, and ridges than a smooth, cylindrical noodle.
This increased surface area allows for a thicker, more textured coating of the cheese sauce emulsion, which drastically alters the mouthfeel and the concentration of flavor per bite. I will grant you the science of the shapes.
But the powder changing. That is likely just the tragic loss of your childhood palate. You are chasing the dopamine dragon of being 9 years old with zero adult responsibilities, not a superior cheddar blend.
Why do you constantly destroy my dreams with science? Let me have my delusion. Okay, fine. What about you? What is your deeply held food conspiracy theory?
Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Specifically, the ratio of chocolate to peanut butter and the seasonal shapes. The Christmas trees, the Easter eggs, the Halloween pumpkins. The shapes are vastly superior to the standard ridged cup.
And my conspiracy is that the manufacturer has slowly, incrementally reduced the peanut butter volume in the standard cups over the last decade to cut costs, forcing us to rely on the seasonal shapes for the true original flavor ratio.
Wait, oh my God. You are so incredibly right. The Easter egg Reese's is the absolute peak of human culinary achievement. The standard cup is just a dry disappointment now. See? I told you, we aren't delusional.
The world is changing, the formulas are shifting, the peanut butter ratios are shrinking, and we are the only ones brave enough to speak the truth on a Tuesday night.
Or alternatively, we're just two overtired adults analyzing candy ratios and soft lighting to completely avoid thinking about the horrifying reality of Ethan Plath sleeping in a Chrysler New Yorker in Wisconsin. It could really go either way.
It really could. Babes, we have unpacked so much tonight. We have manually pushed over dead trees. We have stolen a juicer from a dusty closet. We have delivered exactly one bag of oats to establish dominance. We have rated ourselves a solid 5 out of 10 on the emotional commitment scale, and we have fully, deeply spiraled. It is time to wrap up the chaos.
It is time. We need to go wash our faces, apply our skincare, and put our phones in a completely different room.
Snark Squad, thank you. Thank you for riding with us through another absolutely wild Tuesday evening. We love you so much. Please, I'm begging you, stay hydrated, go get a Frost Glacier Freeze, take a sip, and tell me I'm not crazy.
Yes, please weigh in the comments and the DMs. We need community data. Did Gatorade actually change its formula, or are we just losing our collective minds to dehydration? We need you to settle this debate.
We need validation. Also, be sure to share this show with your messiest bestie, and please send us your own messy family stories in the DMs because honestly, reading about your chaotic holiday dinners makes us feel so much better about our own narcissist moms. We will read the best ones anonymously on a future show.
Until then, protect your peace. Try to set some actual communicative boundaries. Don't just drive across the country to Wisconsin. And definitely avoid the raw honey if you're trying to cut out sugar.
Yes, stay cozy, stay chaotic. We are slightly healed, slightly unhinged, and fully hydrated. But before we go, just think about this one final thought for the rest of the night. It's going to haunt me. If Barry Plath actually finds his Sandra Bullock on this dating app, does that technically make Kim Plath the villain in the movie Speed? Is Kim Dennis Hopper? I'm just saying, let that simmer. Love you, babes.